We're going to move on to our next talk and continue this vein of gratitude and this vein of looking at ourselves as individuals and what we bring as an offering to this world. So our next speaker is Miss Shelley Willis. Shelley is the CEO and founder of the Redefining You Foundation. She's a community activist working not only with retiring and transitioning veterans, but she challenges those in the community to bring the power of themselves to everything that they do. Today, she's talking to us about how to embrace, utilize, and harness the power of our and. So her talk today, Embracing Your Power of And. Please join me in welcoming Miss Shelley Willis.
I was in the midst of preparing for my transition process, prepping for military retirement. And like so many others before me, this process entailed long administrative briefings and medical appointments that would sum up over 20 plus years of military service. Doesn't sound that complicated now, does it? I didn't think so either, until one appointment in particular. You see, this appointment was supposed to be a simple get in, be seen, and get out. I was prepared for this appointment just like everything else in my military career. I had rehearsed answers, did my research, because the only thing between me and a shoe sale at Nordstrom's was this appointment. Now, waiting for this appointment felt like an eternity. And it would bring me to a self-actualization that I was not prepared for. So finally, my name is called, and I'm ushered down the long hallway and met by a man in a white coat with a rickety couch. Now, upon seeing this scene, I immediately became extremely overwhelmed, and a rush of anxiety flowed through me. The man with the white coat and the rickety couch invited me to sit down, and he asked me one question. Now, one might think that this question would lead to multiple conversations over the course of any regular day. However, in this point in time, this question took my appointment from being very simple to complex. You see, what I did not realize at that time was that this question would be a gateway for many moments and emotions that I was not prepared to revisit. But this is less about the question and more about the lessons that I've learned from it and how I am one of the 30,000 women who separate from service every year. How I am one of the 74% of service women who feel like after they serve that their service doesn't matter. And how I am one of the 1.9% who's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression disorder. And how I've taken all of those moments and I've learned how to force myself to shift my mindset and tap into my power of and. And I've also learned how to define what post-military transition should look like and how to create an action plan around it. And because this is the land where acronyms live, I decided that I would use the word shift to take us on a journey for the steps in the transitional phases that not only take us from military service, but in life. The transitional phases that get us to transformation, that help us to tap into our power of and. Now, we know that in any transition in life, we have to first search for a new direction. And when we are searching for that new direction, we know that we cannot operate and move forward without knowing our why. Understanding that our why is the root. It's not the big picture. It's the little root. the root that grows, and from that why grows our purpose. And from our purpose, we're able to think about the direction that we need to go. And while we're doing that, we have to understand the importance of operating in humility. You see, being humble is not a sign of weakness. Being humble is simply understanding how to manage your expectations, not just of yourself, but also of the others around you. In StrengthsFinders 2.0, Tom Rath talks about how humility is directly correlated with the strength that is connectedness. And it is simply sampled out in knowing who you are and who you are not. And so while you're thinking about your rooted why and you're growing in your purpose, you're identifying with your next. In that transition, you're seeing who you are and who you are not. Next, we have to think about the power of incubation. You see, incubation in and of itself means there's a matter of time. We live in a space in time where we're not ready to wait for anything. We want to be on Instagram. We want to be Insta-famous. We want to be cooked right, ready, and now. We don't want to wait for anything. We're so rushed to do something that we've lost what the meaning of real process improvement looks like. We think that if it didn't happen yesterday, that we are unsuccessful. If it didn't happen yesterday, that we lost money. That if it didn't happen yesterday, we failed. Knowing that in the military, we are taught that failure is not an option. As a matter of fact, it can lead to catastrophic events. Understanding that that is not the case. When you're shifting your mindset and you're thinking about your transitions to get you to your transformation, to tap into your power of and, failure is not only just an option, it is encouraged. I had to realize that it was okay for me to fail. I had to understand that failure was just iterative processes that I would go to get to my successful outcome. And understanding that there is no matter of time, because incubation gives you power. And in that, I understood that I had to focus. Knowing the importance of focus and knowing what it meant for me. Thinking about the problem that I needed to solve. When I focused on a problem that I need to solve, I realized very quickly that the problem I needed to solve was me. I had gaps I needed to fill. There's opportunity in focusing on a problem that you need to solve. When you're able to have that focus, you're able to clearly identify exactly which direction you're going and how you're going to successfully achieve your goals. Your rooted why, grown into your purpose for your clear direction, with incubation and focus, gives you all of the power that you need to get to the next level, which is transformation. Now, transformation is not a one and done. Transformation has 3 phases to it. I learned that while I was going through my transformation, that I had to understand that I needed to collapse, collaborate, and activate. Now, Kenny Rogers had an amazing song. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Some of y'all are sitting around thinking about who or what you need to run from right now. And collapsing simply means this. You're actually focusing on what you need to clean the slate with. You're thinking about the relationships in your life. You have to think about who's making more withdrawals versus deposits in your life. You're thinking about who are you going to have to pull over on the side of the road for and let off the bus, because believe it or not, everybody's not going to be able to go to the next transitional phase with you. As a matter of fact, their return on investment in your life is probably minimal at best. So while you're going through your transitions to get to your transformation, to tap into your power of and, you have to understand the importance of community and collaboration. We're taught teamwork. We're taught partnership. But when you're leaving one belief system going into another that is unknown and you are not prepared for, You realize the importance of finding people who are like-minded, because now your rooted why and your new purpose and your clear path is taking you in a new direction. You want to understand who are the people in your new community that you need to know. And to understand that, you have to leave your front porch. You have to somewhat disconnect yourself from all that you've known for all the years that you've served, that I have to remind you we are not prepared for. We do a lot of things in preparation for transition in the military, but the personal aspects of the challenges that will occur that you are not prepared for, you are not given instructions for. There is no guidebook for that. In order for everything to happen, you have to understand the strength and the power and activation. The simplest example that I can give you for activation is yeast. It only takes warm water and time. And understanding that it takes warm water and time, what it does is it collapses within itself. And then in order for it to really work, it has to collaborate with a new community of ingredients. And then those ingredients themselves have to be incubated over time, because your new why that grows your new purpose and cuts your clear direction for yourself has to have time to incubate. And in order to make impact and effect work, that is where your activation comes from. But I realized that after 25 years in the Army, I finally didn't know what hurry up and wait really meant. It takes on a different connotation when you are out. And then it matters even more that you learn how to hurry up and wait. I realized that I didn't want to just shift my mindset. I wanted it to mean something. I wanted to think bigger. And then it hit me. Out of all of the problem solving that I was doing and all the gaps that I was filling, that I instantly realized that I inspire, I motivate, and I transform. I'm an activist, an ambassador, and I'm a warrior. I am relentless in my pursuit for transformation. You see, your power of and lies in your third word. When you describe yourself, when you define yourself, it's the third word that leaves resolution. It's the third word that gives power. It's the third word that gives the impression of who you ultimately are, what you're bringing. And that you are not tied to one power of and. You can have as many power of ands that you want, regardless of the circumstances or situation, because transformation does not happen once in our lives. I learned immediately that I was responsible for changing my mindset, who I was around, what I was doing, in order to make sure that my shift happened. I also had to be accountable for all of those changes and transitions I was making. I understood quickly that having the same systems, the same people equaled the same problems, which is ultimately the definition of insanity. There was no way that I was going to be able to shift anything or anyone if I didn't shift me first. Now, what I've learned by tapping into my power of and is that my unspoken word, just like my spoken word, has power. I've learned that it can shift moods and attitudes. I've also learned that it can build up and it can break down. I've learned that I'm limitless. I'm no longer bound. Yes, I have structure, but there's no more permission. There's no more requirements outside of the ones that I put on myself. That we're not prepared for that. I've learned that the only thing that goes in a box are my shoes. I've also learned that there's only one version of me. I'm an original. But I also know that I can't do anything in and of myself, which is why community is so important. And so I'm challenging you to do this. I'm challenging you to understand that you have to write the code. There are people going through transitions every day, and this is just a dash in your life. So when you think about the transition you're making from this belief system to another belief system that you've not really been prepared for, You need to write the code, and then you need to pull out the blueprint and address the areas in your life that you need to do work on. I'm telling you this now in advance because your code isn't just yours. It's yours to share, but not yours to keep. Someone's going to need your code. Someone's going to need your blueprint. Someone's going to need to know that they can take what you did, make it fit themselves, and then, and only then, would they be able to also shift based off of the code that you wrote. Now, I know you're wondering, Shelley, what was the question? When I think about my rooted why, my new grown purpose, when I think about the clear direction and how when the lights went on for me and I realized what I was supposed to be doing, but not just for myself, for other women like me who would ultimately transition and not know or have direction in any sense of the way or feel like they mattered, even though they stood side by side with their comrades in arms, understanding that they're not invisible and understanding how they can stand in their power and use their power of and. You see, what you don't understand about that day when I told you that I was prepared for my answers because I didn't have my mind and I wasn't prepared for what happened to me. That when he invited me, the man in the white coat with the rickety couch, to sit on the couch, and he asked me the question, unbeknownst to me, my mind and my body had an immediate disconnect. And I was on the floor, in the fetal position. My mind wanted my body to stop shaking and wailing, but they couldn't talk to one another. I didn't know how to stop, and he didn't know how to help me. There are so many other things going on in the room. And the question that he asked me that day, that I didn't have the answer to, was simply, so today, if you were to ask me, Shelley, how you doing? Come on, ask me, Shelley, how you doing? I can tell you that my journey is one day at a time in a new direction. I can tell you that it's a marathon and not a sprint. I can tell you that I live limitless, I live boundless, I live free. And I can tell you that she is redefined. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Shelley. Thank you. I think we've heard it over and over, those words, everything from finding meaning, of course, resilience, understanding our why, understanding our purpose. It's here. It's here in this room. As we join with our community, join with those around us, it's here in this room.